This lesson focuses on Chapter 8, Section 10, Nonlinear Systems. Nonlinear systems that we are going to be focusing on are particularly quadratic and linear functions. So what does it look like and how do you solve if you have a parabola and a line on the same graph? So the essential question is, how do you solve a system of equations when they are not both lines? What are the possible methods and when would you use each? So a nonlinear system is a system in which at least one of the equations is nonlinear. For example, a system that contains one quadratic equation and one linear equation is a nonlinear system. These are the types that we will be focusing on. If a system is made up of a linear equation and a quadratic equation, we could have three possible outcomes. We could have no solution, they never intersect. One solution if the line touches the parabola perfectly at only one point, and two solutions if the line crosses through the parabola at 2 points. So just like a system of linear equations, the solutions to a system of nonlinear equations is still the points of intersection. So traditionally, this is done by graphing. Sometimes you can do it by hand. At this point, most of us do it in the calculator. If you were to do it by hand, for your quadratic function, we recently just learned how to do that by hand a few weeks ago. You would possibly just find the axis of symmetry first by doing negative b over 2a, plug that in and get your point up for your vertex, make that your middle point in your table, plug in some other values, and get your ordered pairs to plot. Then at this point, we should definitely know how to graph a line, so we know how to graph y equals negative x minus 1. Negative 1 is the y-intercept. Negative 1 also happens to be the slope, so that's down 1, right 1. We would draw our line, and then we would find the points of intersection. Those are happening at negative 1, 0, and 2, negative 3. Those are the solutions. We rarely do that by hand anymore. At this point, we usually use the TI-84 calculator. So since I do not have an emulator, we are going to have to watch that video here in just a moment, and this guy's going to walk you step by step through how to plug it in, make sure you solve for y, and how to find the 2 points of intersection and what to do if they're not clean rational numbers. I do want you to know that there are two other methods that you could technically use. You could solve by substitution. So just like with linear systems, if I had two equations and they were both y equals, or if I have even one of them just y equals, I can take that expression and plug it in for that variable. So we would set them up, solve, get the variables to the same side, set it equal to 0, and for this particular one we would have to solve by factoring. And it turns out, when it's all said and done, that one of the answers is x equals 1. That's just the x coordinate for the point of intersection. When you plug that back in to one of the originals here, so we'll put it into this one, and we do 1 plus 2, we find out that our y is 3, so we have our point of intersection 1, 3. We rarely use this. I just want you to know it's an option. The other option is elimination. If you remember, for elimination, you had to have all common terms lined up to cancel out. In this instance, we would want to try and cancel out the y's because x and x squared aren't exactly the same. And so if we canceled out the y's and made it 0 and moved everything else over, we would have a trinomial, and we could solve that by factoring like we would any other quadratic function. But in order to do that, you would have had to first cancel out the y's and add the remaining terms to come up with your trinomial to factor. So again, we're not really going to go into this because we rarely use that, and we definitely don't use it in here. I just wanted you to know it's an option. So at this point, if you would go ahead and watch the YouTube video of the step-by-step for the calculator, and then try the few, I think there's like 3 or 4 practice problems in there for you to do in class, and then your homework is your Chapter 8 review.